Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. The sisters of Lazarus sent word to Jesus, saying, Master, the one you love is ill. When Jesus heard this, he said, This illness is not to end in death, but it is for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was ill, he remained for 2 days in the place where he was. Then, after this, he said to his disciples, Let us go back to Judea. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary sat at home. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise. Martha said, I know he will rise in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus told her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord. I have come to believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world. He became perturbed and deeply troubled and said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Sir, come and see. And Jesus wept. So the Jews said, See how he loved him. But some of them said, Could not the one who opened the eyes of the blind man had done something so that this man would not have died? So Jesus, perturbed again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay across it. Jesus said, Take away the stone. Martha, the dead man's sister, said to him, Lord, by now there will be a stench. He has been dead for 4 days. Jesus said to her, Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? So they took away the stone, and Jesus raised his eyes and said, Father, I thank you for hearing me. I know that you always hear me, but because of the crowd here I have said this, that they may believe that you sent me. And when he had said this, he cried out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, tied hand and foot with burial bands, and his face was wrapped in a cloth. So Jesus said to them, Untie him and let him go. Now many of the Jews who had come to Mary and seen what he had done began to believe in him. The Gospel of the Lord.
So I don't think it was mentioned in this version. I took pity on you, and we read the short version. But Lazarus, where Lazarus and Mary and Martha lived, was about 2 miles from where Jesus was. So 2 miles from here is roughly where the Park West emergency room is. So just for some perspective. Now, one of the things that we were taught in seminary is if you get an emergency call, you go. You know, somebody calls you from the hospital, you go. I've been with a couple of other priests. They're like, well, how sick are they? I'm like, man, you've got to be kidding me, right? Well, so you're asking the parent or the wife. It's like, well, you know, it's like Monty Python. Well, he's nearly dead, or you know, like that's not good. But the thing that we use in chaplain terms and also in hospital terms, it's like they're actively dying. That's a horrible set of words, actively dying. But that means that they are pretty much on their way out. Now, you do not want to be the priest who misses one of these phone calls. I have missed one in my 11 years where I didn't hear the phone ring in the middle of the night. And so I was like, that is never, ever going to happen again. So I've got this ringtone on my phone, and I'm just going to share it with you. This is how much I love you people, all right? This is how much I love you. Imagine what happens in the middle of the night when me and the dog hears this. Hang on. Why are you not playing? All right, here we go. Just wait. Okay. Now, when Tripp was around, it was like a firehouse. He jumps up, I jump up, I'm putting on my pants, he goes out and starts the car, and then we take off. And then sometimes, you get that call, you get there, and then you get there, and Joe Blow's sitting up there in the hospital bed or in the chair eating Jell-O. I'm like, what part of dying about is this? You guys this not even come close to dying. But there's sometimes when you go in there and you go in, they don't just say, well, just come see my dad. And you go in to see Dad, and Dad's hooked up to everything possible. And I'm like, you guys, how long have you been here? Oh, about 2 weeks. I'm like, you're just now calling? Right? This is not the time. You don't wait till somebody's on their deathbed before you call the priest. There's one time I got a call, said, hey, can you come in? It was chaplain so-and-so. We're not sure when it's going to happen, but they're close. I go in there, and I give them last rites, I give them the apostolic pardon, do the prayers of commendation for the dying, and as soon as I finished, the minute I did the sign of the cross, boo! And then I looked over her, I looked over to the nurse, and the nurse came in, she's like, you know what just happened? I'm like, yeah, I know what just happened. So anyway, just to give you an idea, we don't mess around when it comes to that. So Jesus lives from here, Jesus is hanging out from here to Park West, and he finds out that one of his best friends is ill. Okay, and then he waits, and then it's like, okay, it's been 2 days, so let's go. And then by the time he gets there, we know the story, that's why the short version is fine, but he's already dead. And then we hear Martha. Martha came out to meet Jesus. We know Martha, right? She came out to meet Jesus with a frying pan in one hand and an axe handle in the other. Dear Lord, if you had come sooner. No, it's like full on, brother, mama, I'm going to let you have it. And she's like, you don't trust me? I told you he will be resurrected. I know you told me the resurrected. I believe in you, but it's not. And he goes, no, it's different. Right? So Jesus had to prove a point. He could have gotten there, in probably about an hour. Well, think about the Israelites when they escaped out of Egypt. Where they ended up, as the crow flies, it's about 20 miles, maybe a little more than that. But for it to take 40 years to go that far, they weren't that stupid, right? There was a reason, right? There was a reason that they had to go through some stuff. They had things that they needed to learn, things that they had to learn over and over and over again. They weren't ready for the promised land. Right? God had to show them some things. And same thing with what happened today in the gospel. Jesus had to show some people who were stiff-necked, obstinate, stubborn, and some who had seen it all happen before, but did not believe he could do what he said he could do. And then he does it in grand fashion. And many people came to believe him. Now, the moral of this story, or what's in it for us, is it's very simple. God's in charge. God is in charge. If you don't understand that, then you got about 39 more years in the desert, right? If you think you can make things happen the way you want to do them, just like whoever said it, you want to make God laugh, make some plans, right? But God has the plan for us. He knows innately what we need to be the best person that we are. We just have to take Him at His word that He is in charge, right? That He created us. He made us. He made us. He knitted us in our mother's womb. So He knew us before we were even a glimmer in our parents' eyes. So we have to trust Him. We do our job, let Him do His job, and things will work out. Now, when we try and fight, when we try and resist, it doesn't work out so well, right? Just ask Jonah, right? When Jesus wants you to do something, you're going to do it eventually, but you might take some lumps along the way. So when we get ready to look at this our almost next to last step before we move towards Easter, just think about how willing Jesus was to do anything to get people to believe, right? This is one of His biggest ones. And He still ended up having to die on a cross to convince so many. But not just to convince, but because that perfect sacrifice had to be made. Just as Lazarus rose from the dead, so did Jesus. In a different way, but still just as powerful. So, like I said before, let's do our job and let's let God do His.